This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so on behalf of the Ontario Council for Technological Educators, OCTE, we'd like to welcome you to our Design Thinking webinar, showcase, and virtual co-op launch. The presenters today are going to be Christine German from OCTE, Lydia Hamilton from the Ottawa-Carleton District School Board, and Donna Norrie from the Halton District School Board, and myself. I'm going to be acting as a moderator, and I'm Chris Tucker from the York Region District School Board. We'd like to begin by acknowledging our Indigenous partners. We would like to be recognizing that wherever you are in Ontario that you're logging in from, we're located on the traditional territory of an Indigenous peoples that dates back to time immemorial. We want to show our respect for their contribution and recognize their role in treaty making in what some of us know as Ontario, which is still shared land based on treaty hundreds of years after the first treaties were signed, and they are still relevant today, and perhaps now more than ever. It is important to recognize these connections. So please take a moment to recognize the contribution in your local community of the Indigenous peoples in your area. And we acknowledge this and the peoples of the Indigenous communities because the first step in reconciliation is in recognizing the existence of Indigenous peoples. So we thank you for joining us this morning for this. Okay. As we get started, we're going to do a quick little interactive piece. So we generally ask you to go to the following website, www.menti.com, and you'll be able to enter that code 9260842 or utilize that QR code. And we're just going to do a quick little poll to see who's actually online and where you locate yourselves in terms of your Teachable. And we're going to get a little bit of a live interactive piece. Let me just switch my screens here. Okay. So you can see we got some numbers from our morning session as well. Okay. We're going to let that keep going. If you're not familiar with Menti, Menti is an online, I guess, presentation tool that has a variety of interactive, components that you can kind of utilize for free, and you can kind of embed them into your material. And as we're looking at synchronous learning online and ways of engaging our students, it's a valuable tool that you may want to leverage within your practice. And it does have a fairly robust free, I guess, element to it. Very similar to Kahoots and some of the other tools, but hasn't been overkilled as much as Kahoots is. I know I'll do Kahoots with my kids and they roll their eyes at me and say like, oh, you're so old. So it's something you may want to try. Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Donna and Lydia to take the show from here.
So hello everyone, I'm Donna. I'm just going to get a quick overview of the agenda for our presentation today. So we've sort of already been introduced to our team. We are then going to go through a general overview of what the design thinking process is, how our website's organized, and how you may use it. There's a number of different ways you can use it. We then plan to go through sort of a general summary of the different modules and how we've set up the website. There is a student guide which we have created that you'll be able to use to sort of coach your students and guide them through, and also collect their assignments, which we'll show you. After that, we plan to actually show you the website and how we've organized it, so you can see how it can really be used for the multiple purposes. We'll then take you through the teacher guide and let you know where we've hid that. And then finally, we'll show you how you can get your own copy of this and some of the tricks for using it during COVID. And then finally, we'll just give you a few summary reminders of things that you must keep in mind if you're to use this effectively.
Hello, I'm Lydia, as part of the team here. As most of you are familiar with, design thinking is the focus in which we've taken on this Google site, and that's mainly because it does lead into our SPCE. It lends itself to co-op, it lends itself to curriculum, expectation of technological education. As you know, design thinking is one of the methods of delivery. And just as a quick review of what design thinking might be, it's about empathizing with your potential client, or who that person may be, where the problem exists, defining what the real problem may be, ideating, getting feedback from your potential end user, developing a concept, prototype, testing, make sure it works, and then coming up with a solution and bringing that back to the end user. So this is a process that we use in everything we do, and especially in business as well. When we go to our next piece, are we into the website, Donna?
I think the student guide.
Oh, the student guide. Okay. As the student guide, we'll.
Sorry, no, it's me.
Okay.
Sorry, folks.
It's okay.
So this is just a summary of how we have organized the actual website. There are 7 modules that the students will work through, right from module 1, where the students learn about design thinking, what it is. Once they have a sense of design thinking, they then go through and try and identify a challenge statement. In those challenge statements, we have them organized for each employment sector that the SHSMs or Specialist High Skills major cover. So the students have a chance to look at both open-ended challenges, ones that community partners have submitted, as well as an opportunity to design their own challenges. We then take them through module 3 through 6 is actually working through the process, building empathy, brainstorming, coming up with a prototype, and then actually delivering a pitch. And finally, there's a reflective piece at the end. What you don't see on this slide is there's 2 other modules, module 8, which is student resources. So we've embedded an opportunity for the students to get some of the Specialist High Skills major certifications, or some of their sector partner contextualized experience opportunities that they need for the Specialist High Skills majors. And then module 9 is the teacher resource package. So all of that is also included in the website. When you're looking at this, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that if you are running this for a sector partner contextualized experience for, say, a day or 2, you're not going to be able to give your students as much time in each of the different modules or sections. If you are running it as a 9-week co-op per se, you then could have the students spend a fair bit of time doing some research in that need, finding an empathy building piece. So there's lots of flexibility and a lot of it comes down to how much time you give in each of the different sections. So I'm now going to have Lydia take you to the student guide.
Okay, so we've developed a student guide that fits with the Google site. And this is to help as a teacher to guide what components the students may be involved in. It's also to help guide the students during the journey to keep themselves organized, to ensure that they haven't missed a piece of the process. So these, in each module, we've also included some assignments without assessments, because we feel that's up to the teacher to decide whether this is going to be a formative assessment or just part of the process, just to keep them on track. So we've left the assignments in there, and then you can choose to add, subtract, include, and add assessments as you see fit. So this will help ensure that they're going through the process. And again, that will be expanded or decreased based on the amount of time that you're giving the students and at what method it's being used for. So we've indicated during the modules, each of the activity assignments that we have made available through those different modules. We've indicated a notes and link section in there so that the students can actually provide the actual link to their product. So for example, if you're looking at module 3, we have an empathy map. So we've given them not only the empathy map, but the direct link into the website, so they don't have to try and go and find it in the website. And then when they've completed their empathy map, they can actually, under the notes and links, put their completed link there to help find everything in one spot. And then they can keep their checkpoints to make sure that they have completed those pieces. So that's just sort of a guideline that might be of help to not only yourself as teachers as you're planning to decide which pieces you would like to incorporate or not, and to help the students and going through the process as well. So then I believe we move into the website next.
So this is the front cover of our website. I am actually going to share my screen, hopefully.
And as you're doing that, the mission that we had in mind was really about utilizing experiential learning modules. So in sort of the participation, reflection, and application for students, and making this authentic to them rather than just, you know, assignments that we may have come up with, because we know our students after a while, they'd like to know how that reacts to the real world. And with the most recent COVID scenario, the real world has come to all of our doorsteps.
Okay, so I believe everybody can see my screen. Is that correct?
Oh, we've just come to you.
Do you have my screen?
We have a picture of you, Donna.
Oh. Let's try this one more time.
There you go. Is there a possibility of making it larger? There we go.
Don't want to do that. Okay. Can we see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So this is our main screen, as Lydia mentioned. So to move through the website, you're going to, on the left-hand side, click to the different modules. So this is our home page. And so as we move through, you'll see the student guide that we would like the students to join right at the beginning. And there's also a spot for each of the different modules. So we're going to start with module 1. We can either connect to it on the left side or up here.
And before we go there, Donna, if we could just go to the bottom of the page, of the first home page, just so we can show the linkages. We've included the curriculum for technological education, the strands A through D, the curriculum for DCO, B through D, The SHISM components, of course, the SPCE, because this is the heart and foundation of all the world as far as we're concerned, right? And then using the experiential learning framework. So we have provided those links in there, as well as to the direct links to the documents of how this can be utilized.
Okay, so moving to module 1.
So Donna, would you like to give us an overview of the format that you've used for each module?
Sure. So you'll notice here at the very top of each module, there's a definition. So explaining what the purpose of this module is, it then outlines the particular task. If there is multiple sections in a module, they all are set up the same way. We then turn into activities for the students. Tasks, if they need to be done, are also included, and then the buttons to move to the next section.
So with the design thinking, we've just gone through a review for the students to choose one or all of the videos. So we try to have a variety of videos available that help explain the process, and the students can choose which one works best for them, and to give them a foundation. And of course, for the design thinking, we've just started them off with just a few questions before an assignment, just so that they have the concept.
Sorry, folks, I accidentally hit that video link.
It's a really good video too. So then after the module design thinking, then we've gone into module 2, which is around the challenges. And we've come up with a variety of ways of presenting those challenges. And Donna will walk you through that.
Sorry, folks. Anyways, here are is this challenge section. You'll notice that we have set this up for all different sectors of the specialist high skills major. So all 19 have been included. And in each of these different sections, there are a series of different types of questions. We have included here at the bottom, you'll notice a section for giving us ideas about community partners or challenge questions you'd like us to include, or a spot for the students if they want to design their own question. I will just take you through here into the arts and culture section and show you that once you click one of these links, it takes you to a spot where there are open-ended challenges and challenges provided by the community partner. The open-ended challenges, we have a series of them, and there's a minimum of 10 in each sector. You'll notice each of them has a category that we've assigned to it, and then an open-ended question.
And these are not necessarily challenges that you need to use as is, but it's certainly to give you some ideas and suggestions on how you might create your own challenges specific to your sector or area, or how you might work with your industry partner to formulate challenges that relate to their industry or their scenario.
If we have a community partner, whatever information they give us, we try and incorporate. So here for the Stratford Festival, they asked us or shared with us some videos that they felt would be great for arts and culture students or students interested in a career in arts, would be worth considering or observing. We then have challenge statements that they shared with us. The community partners, we have given them the choice of asking for the students' feedback or pitches to be shared with them. So in this particular example, they would like the feedback from the students, and they've provided a link for you to share the student pitches with them.
So we have provided here an example of how you can incorporate your industry partners when you choose to build your own site and make this site your own. When you take your copy and make your own, this is a great opportunity for you to include any of the provincial ones that we have included here and will continue to contribute, or to make this very customizable to your own local area. A great way to promote to other mentor leads within your community. After that, then we get into the starting the process. And as we spoke about the process, we have to begin with the empathy and need finding. So once we've decided what that challenge might be, then it's about asking those questions, doing some more research for the students to understand more clearly, unpack the challenge. We have the videos, we have, the definitions and some interactive assignment. The beauty of this is the empathy map. We were really excited to be able to find an interactive online version. And the students are then able to work individually or as a team. We hope that they will have those team opportunities because we know it's the building of those soft skills. And this gives them an opportunity to make their own map, name it, and when they have completed the work on that, they can include the link directly to their map on their student guide in the area that was assigned. And then once they've done that information, of course, then they've got a clearer idea of the challenge and then the perspective that they would like to approach the challenge from. And of course, some examples of what that means, how to restate a challenge.
You'll notice at the end of each of the modules, we've incorporated a required check-in. Depending on how this is being used, if you are using a community partner as a mentor, there's some advice for them to have those conversations with their mentor, and then depending on how it's being used, the conversations and things they need to complete with their co-op teacher or their SHSM teacher or whatever it's being used.
And these things can be reflected directly in your version of the student guide that you choose to create and modify to meet the way you are choosing to utilize the site or customize your own site.
We move into module 4, which is the planning stage. So we begin with some brainstorming. So it's all about brainstorming to get started. So once again, we explain what brainstorming is. There's some videos. The students can choose to watch one or all 4. There then is a Lotus map that they are to complete. You'll notice it tells the students that they, at the very beginning, need to make their own copy of this, and then they get to work through it, save it, and upload it into their student guide. For some students, they may have been on the computer a little bit too much, so we consider brainstorming as a chance that to brainstorm with on paper, sticky notes, whatever they felt, a whiteboard. So we included this here as a chance to just change things up a little bit as well. Once the students have done their brainstorming, they will then go through a similar process to try and figure out what the best solution is. This is set up based on the SWOT analysis process, so some videos explaining the SWOT analysis, and then a chance for them to complete that. Finally, in this module, they will set up a strategic plan. Once again, we talk to them about how to do it and give them a template. Sorry, Nadia, or Lydia, go ahead.
No, actually, this is an opportunity as we move into module 4 and module 5. As they're doing their planning, this is an opportunity for students to reflect and see if they require any additional training, any certifications, any added learning that they feel that would be part of their plan or needed as they go along. So this is where it can be expanded or contracted, especially if you have co-op or as you're meeting SPCE components, SHSM components. Here's an opportunity to expand into that area as well and really customize for the students, especially if they feel, oh, I need project management as a learning tool, or depending on what their product is going to be, infection control, and we'll feed into those resources as well. We'll show what OCTI has added. Then they get into the ideation and prototyping in Module 5. Again, reflecting on what does that really mean, right? What is a prototype? Maybe it's a concept. Maybe it's just a vision. There's a number of different things that they can come back with, depending on what they feel is the solution to the challenge that they have clarified. Then we also ask them to really review the design. This is an opportunity also to take a look, have feedback from other teachers, mentors, especially if you have mentors coming in throughout the sessions, being part of this from a co-op perspective as well, and get some feedback and doing some testing on their product, their concept, to see if it actually needs tweaking or if it will work for the challenge that they have in mind. And again, the required check-ins. We do this both for the teachers as well as the students.
So finally, Module 6, we actually have the students, they've identified their solution. They're now going to pitch it either to their mentor, or it could be their co-op teacher, their SHISM program lead, their tech teacher, whoever. So we take them through some information on how to deliver a pitch effectively. We then give them a template to organize their pitch. They then plan their pitch, book it, set it up. They then deliver their pitch. And once their pitch is done, they go once again to the required check-in.
And what's really great about this is they're having that practice opportunity with their soft skills development. Many teachers have also used this as part of their summative evaluation. Then we get into Module 7. This too is rich for summative experiences, or if you wanted to, especially it's really good if I like the reverse design method, where you say, okay, this is where we're headed. So keep this in mind, especially if you're utilizing the portfolio component. This is where we're headed. So keep these things in mind as we're going through this entire process, all of these modules, because all of these components will be helpful in your portfolio development, looking at your transferable skills, updating your resume, what is your next step, and all of the pieces that they've done, all the assignments they've done throughout, if they continue to link them back to their student guide, it makes it an easy piece for them to go back and pull from that area as well. Again, these can be utilized in whatever fashion you feel suits your program, as well as your students, right? Because we're dealing with all levels of students here.
All right, so the last module for the students is additional resources. So once again, here we've included a link to the student guide, just in case they didn't see it at the very beginning. But there is also a link to some additional training opportunities. So these just right now showcase for the students the different certifications and sector partner contextualized experiences that OCTE has prepared. You'll notice that it says contact your teacher. I have included those links in the teacher resources. And the reason they're just shown here for the students to access is it's important that teachers make sure they meet your board's needs. So for example, the project management certification requires that the students give their school emails. If your board doesn't allow that, then you would need to make modifications to the delivery of that training. You'll notice here on the right side, if you can see my screen, what I've been showing you right now is sort of the editable version. And so this is the version that you would get if you were request a copy of our website. So here you'll see Module 9 teacher resources. You'll notice this little line through it. That just means that once it's published that people can't see it. So the only people who can see it are you, the teachers, who are going to create and edit the website. But you'll notice that there's a number of different links to our resources here. I've also added a blank if you decide to add pages. There's a few blank templates there so that you can utilize those when you go to modify the website.
One of the things that's also advantageous around Model 8 with the student resources is this is also an opportunity to include personal resources and certification links to providers that you may be using locally. So you can do those, add those pieces in there as well as the OCTI resources. Now, of course, our website will continue to be updated as OCTI provides more and more resources. So always touch back to possibly include those into your own customizable site. And again, the teacher resources customized to what are your teachers looking for specifically.
So you'll notice in the teacher resources, these links are live, so they take you actually directly to those links.
Yeah. Donna and Lydia, do you mind if I just interject quickly about the student certifications for a second?
Not at
Please go
all.
ahead.
So with the student certifications, whether you're a technological education teacher, co-op, alt-ed, SHSM lead, or what have you, the way that those were designed is that they have multiple, I guess, functionality or touch points with all of those subject areas. So the project management certification, if you're a tech teacher, we're project-based by nature, so that certification is something that you could embed within your online component for your courses. The infection control, the same thing. We're all having to deliver some form of infection control training for our students, depending on your board's process and who's required to clean surfaces and that type of thing. And then the communication one is intended to be like teach students how do you communicate professionally in an online environment? Because what we're finding is a lot of students, when they're going into co-op placements, are getting charged with maintaining some type of social media presence for an organization, and really focusing on how to those students that professional communication is different than personal communication, and the use of Bitmojis isn't necessarily an appropriate way in a professional manner. So really focusing on those types of skills. We do have a few more in the pipeline that are going to be coming online, and as they are developed, they will be included in the resources moving forward.
Okay, so I think that's it for showcasing the website, Chris. If you would like to take over presenting again and sharing your screen.
So this brings us to the teacher guide. So what we've done is, and Chris will open that up for us. What we've done here is just given a map out of potential options of how the site can be utilized. We looked at the summer co-op, which is anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks based on how many credits are being generated. A semester co-op being at DCO or linked co-op, virtual or face-to-face. Technological education to all our tech curriculum, SPCE, and just experiential learning, because the foundation is all the design thinking. So what we've mapped out here is how you might utilize the modules. Again, the timelines will be determined by you and your students and your needs. In the various modules where you can indicate certification operation potential, we've indicated some potential considerations. Again, you will be customizing this based on your needs, your program, and most specifically your students. So the number of check-in times, as we've indicated in the site, we've indicated on the student guide, these are potential check-in times. So check-ins will be, again, dependent upon who the students are dealing with, what is the final process, and how much time you have with each student and how much time each student may possibly need. So one of the elements that we have is the what we have done with the DCO looking at potential links with the DCO just as an idea of how it can be utilized in the first few weeks, doing the pre-placement activities, any certifications you feel you have that are important, depending on the sector, depending on how you're planning to build it out. Depending on if you're planning to do it, the challenge, be it open-ended or you're designing it with your student or with your industry partners. If you're planning to have a live series of industry partners with a career panel and some networking and having them provide the challenge, much as we do with SBCE, you may want to have the students have some preview of what design thinking is beforehand, better understanding what challenges are, to understand what empathy and need finding might be, so that when they come to the actual live event with the mentors, that they are better rehearsed and have a better feel as to what kinds of questions to ask. You can even pre-present the challenge virtually or through a video or written format before the actual timing with the mentor in live time. And then walking through the process, and we've indicated what are the potential DCO links to each of those and how they can be utilized. Again, customizable to however you're planning to use it. We've also included a community partner letter that we utilized when we were reaching out to industry partners. We have found, as many of you I'm sure are finding, that not everybody is prepared to jump into full-scale co-op. As we know, many of our industry partners are just trying to figure out what it looks like for them and their own employees. Not every board is allowing face-to-face, depending on the scenarios. So we've given them a variety of touch points saying, hey, maybe you're not prepared to do co-op full force right away, but maybe you'd be interested in providing a challenge statement or just doing some mentoring or, getting increasingly more involved as time goes through. So it's a way to engage new potential partners as well as further engage ones we currently work with. So please utilize however you feel. If it works for you, great. Please cut and paste and use it however works for you.
So we have included a link here, and I believe it'll be on the side chat, a link for you to fill in a complete quick survey for us. It also in that survey gives you the opportunity to request your own school's or personal copy of this website. Remember that if you want instructions and the teacher guide and all of that, it is included in that site that you will get in Module 9. So just a quick summary, because we have based this whole website on the design thinking process, it can be used for your co-op in a number of different ways. It can be used for blended co-op, for students who've been fired from their placements, for a full virtual co-op, and it all depends on how you time it. One of the key components from a co-op perspective, I believe, is that you try and make sure that you do include that community mentor or co-op employer, just to sort of coach the student through the process along with the teacher. It can be used for the specialist high skills major sector partner contextualized experience or their innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship training, as it meets all of the requirements for that. And also we've included certifications. It can count for reach aheads or curriculum, even science, tech, all sorts of different curriculum expectations. Remember, as a teacher, sorry?
Go ahead, Donna.
It's really important that you modify the timing depending on the use as well as the students that you're working with. Some students are going to need more time in different areas. So the fact that it is set up sort of self-directed will help for those students who need more time in different areas. But don't let the students get too carried away or spend too much time in one particular area, which is why the check-ins are so critical. The challenge statements need to be, we feel, as open as possible, and this is so that the students can really utilize their passions and their interests and their creativity to find solutions. So when you're working with the community partners to try and create those challenges, please try and coach them to be as open as they can, because if we make the questions or the challenge statements too closed, it really sort of guides the students to a particular solution. And then finally, please make sure you complete that survey so we can get the resource out to you.
One of the ways in which we had an experience with some of our students this summer, I had 3 Arts and Culture SHISM co-op students, and they did the 6 weeks in the summer, so it was giving them their 2 co-op credits. We were really excited and fortunate with this particular employer in that they spent the time going through with our design thinking process, and through the planning and the requirements that they needed to do. When they were finished, they ended up with not only their 2 credits co-op, their SPCE, their Reach Ahead, their experiential learning, and 3 elective certifications over that 6 weeks. It was pretty amazing.
Okay, well, I guess at this point in time, we are open to taking questions. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask Donna or Lydia, you can utilize that and ask that through the chat pod, or if you'd prefer to ask it in person, we just kindly ask you to unmute yourself, maybe identify yourself, and then maybe direct your question either to Donna or Lydia, and they can then hopefully answer it to the best of their ability.
Yeah, hi, Lydia or Donna. Will Creaser here. I'm just wondering if we have some students who ultimately may not get a co-op placement, God forbid, but and this was something that they got started on instead, how many hours would they be able to utilize using this program versus somebody, let's say, who was working at maybe a centralized placement like a hospital or something and got started right away, but then for SHSM requirements did this for their ICE event, and how many hours would we need to allocate for that type of student versus somebody who may use this as a full-time virtual co-op type placement with a mentor? What's sort of the parameters for how long this all these modules would take?
So Donna, I know you'll have some very specific pieces. I think just knowing from what we're looking at from our board is the focus is really about meeting the expectations, especially if you're using the DC 3.0, which isn't necessarily time allotment as we're used to the traditional 110 hours per credit. Even though 110 hours per credit is what we have for all of our courses, we know the reality is we don't spend 110 hours. So I think if the focus is on meeting the expectations through this process, I think that will be at your professional discretion.
Yeah, I sort of envision having to use this because I teach co-op myself this year. So I envision using this for some of my students for their full co-op experience, because I know I've got a couple that'll likely need that. My plan is to set out a sort of map it out with the student on how long do you think you're going to need for each of these different sections as we walk them through the whole process so they see it first, and then sort of set imaginary deadlines sort of for them to meet each of the different modules. Once that's set, if a student moves faster through a module, fabulous. If it takes them too long, you know what? As long as they're learning new skills, and if they don't get to the reflective piece fully or something, or I have to cut out a component, I think I'll problem solve as we go. The other thing is, these are skills that to me, you need to do more than once. Like, I didn't become a great brainstorming the very first time I brainstormed. I still am not a perfect brainstormer. So if a student gets through a project related to a sector and then starts a second one, it's still great learning. Because they are developing skills as well as a knowledge and understanding of the sector or the careers or or a problem that they're interested
in. Great. All right, Donna and Lydia, there's another question in the chat pod is, so do students work through the modules independently, or are there group elements.
Yeah, I was just starting to respond to that actually. This is a great opportunity for students to collaborate. Again, it's going to be based on the needs of the student and what their comfort zone is, but if they have that opportunity to collaborate and work in a team similar to what we do through ICE training and SPCE, it is all about teamwork. It is about brainstorming collectively. These are all the soft skills that industry is crying for. And these are skills that our students need, I think, in moving forward. So that's going to be really something that you're going to have to really field according to your students. So there are times when they can come together, and then even if they come out with different solutions, if you want them to work on different solutions, and then they share those solutions, you know, there's a variety of different ways of involving students. And it's great if you have a variety of students with a variety of skills, very much to the JA program. If you set it up, you can set it up almost as a business piece where everybody has a component, depending on what the solution is.
So a follow-up question to that is the website used by employers who are matched to the students in co-op?
It hasn't been set up that way, but there's no reason why it can't be used that way. I think that's really going to depend on how you as a school, as a teacher, as a district choose to utilize the site, because you will be able to take your own copy and customize it. So the potential is definitely there to be used by employers.
Okay, well, if anyone has any additional questions, I mean, we're happy to entertain them, but I'm going to turn it over to Christine now.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just want to send a very sincere thanks to Donna and Lydia. I think it's pretty obvious that they've poured their heart and soul into this resource. So we really, really appreciate all these hours to make such a useful resource for people provincially. I did want to share, so this is one of the resources that we've created through our curriculum consortium opportunity that many of your boards supported, which we really appreciate. So this is one of about 60 different resources. This is our first launch because we sincerely felt you needed it to prepare for co-op in advance, but we do have an official OCTI online resource launch taking place on Saturday, September 19th from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. We don't yet have the registration link up, but once we do, we will send it out through all of our channels. I've also just posted the link to all the online resource documents so you can have a look. There are 4 different areas posted right now in terms of secondary technological education, elementary science and technology, specialist high skills major, and experiential learning. So please explore those. They'll be great resources for you, and we will be in touch with more details on that. Also, I think we're up to about 52 boards that have affiliated with OCTI for this coming school year, which is fantastic. So we definitely ask you know, to register as an OCTI member in order to stay connected, so you can get that affiliation information out through your board lead. And once you're on your list, you'll get all the information to stay connected, and we'll send that back out to your board leads come September to share with you. Also, we do have our fall conference coming up in November. It will be a virtual conference. So we're still kind of ironing out the details for that. So we'll definitely be in touch with all of the details on that conference. Thank you very much for joining today. And we definitely appreciate any feedback that you have for us. So feel free to share it.
Great. So another quick element is just a reminder that all of the OCTI resources are available free of charge. So anything that you can download from the OCTI's website, it's available. They're developed by educators, directly tied to the Ontario curriculum or Ontario policies, depending on which document you're looking at. So we really encourage you to take a look at them, see where you want to look. They may find places in your programs. And if you have any feedback for us, to definitely let us know. How you choose to implement them within the context of your board is going to depend on what infrastructure your board has, whether you're a Google board or whether you're a D2L board. And there are ways to navigate that. So if it is a Google resource and you do want to implement it in the D2L environment, there are some tricks that we can support you with and how you could do that, without having to fully recreate the document yourselves. And just reach out to us and we're happy to supply that information. Okay. Okay. If anyone has any additional questions, now's a great time to ask. Otherwise, we will officially wrap up our webinar in the next few minutes.
Yeah, hi, Chris. It's Will Creaser again. Quick question. You talked about perhaps having an industry mentor for students that may not get a co-op placement. Perhaps they could ask for an industry mentor to get started on this website with. Would there be a standard letter already or a template letter already designed that could be shared that we could use to send out? Just wondering your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, so Donna and Lydia, do you guys have anything as part of the package yet?
No, we don't. I am planning to need to do one, so I'm not sure if you would like to work with me and maybe we could put one together and then share it with everybody.
Yeah.
And you could take some of the information from the letter that we did start with our initial ask about career opportunities, sector-specific learning, conversations, sharing of challenges, which gives them a number of entry points. So that's one of the ones that we did use as we were, and it's one that I continue to use with asking some of our local partners.
Okay, nice. And the other question I was having is, once let's say a student gets involved and they have an industry mentor, what modules would they share the website with an industry mentor? So for instance, would it be module 2, 3, or 4? Would they, let's say, say to an industry mentor, take a look at the website. This is what I'm working on. This is what I'm asking for. This is kind of the stage that I'm at. Or would the industry mentor never see the website?
From the experience that we've had with the industry mentors we worked with this summer, we felt it worked best when they had a concept of the entire process that the student was going through. And it helps create that relationship and that conversation, saying, and here's where I'm at, and this is where I would like some support with. It just enriches the entire conversation. And then I also see it as a marketing tool where the industry partner says, oh, well, I thought I was just going to do this, but actually I feel I can get involved in this area too, and I can help support this way.
Okay, so they would just provide the URL to the industry mentor? Yeah, okay. Of what they're working. That makes sense. Okay. And you said
the other thing to keep in mind is that the check-in at the end of each module, it actually coaches the students on these are the conversations that you should have with your mentor. So you just need to decide if those are conversations you want your students to have at each stage, and if not, take them out of your version of the website.
Okay, gotcha. And Lydia, you mentioned to involve the industry mentor to see the bigger picture. Is there like a conversation do you recommend that, as, the SHSM teacher or the co-op teacher, that when we've, first have the industry mentor say yes, that we would kind of go over and show them a quick high level view of each of the modules so they have an understanding of what the student will be going through, or how does that conversation usually go?
Yeah, well, you could do that. I mean, again, it depends on if they're doing on an individual basis. It might be worthwhile, and this is something that we're starting to work on from our end as well, is doing that. I think that industry support resource is an important piece, and it might be worthwhile to invite
Mhm.
your various partners together to do similar to what we've done today, to make them involved and see how you want them involved, right? Because when you look at that student guide and your teacher guide and you decide how you're planning to utilize the site and customize it to your specifications, then that might be an opportunity utilizing the student guide with the industry partner and walking them through those points.
Okay, so give them a copy perhaps of the URL from a student guide perspective, and then they can see each sort of module and where the whole process is going to go, and then address any questions just so they know. I just want them to be able to see the bigger picture, I guess, get the buy-in, feel like they have ownership of it, and I guess just have a better understanding of what we're asking for them. Yeah.
And if you're doing that individually, because you're obviously contacting industry partners individually, and then when you've made those contacts, then maybe invite them collectively.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
To a session so that you can go through any questions, because some of them may have questions that other ones may not have thought of.
Sure.
Right? And that way you're not having to do it individually with each one. Good
point. Yeah. Any confidentiality problems at that point? Really, we're just going over a high level at that point, so I don't see any confidentiality issues if everybody's on. Okay. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tracy, you had a question.
Yes, Lydia, Donna, just looking for your guidance on this. If we were meeting within our board with all of our co-ops teachers, let's just say there were 30 teachers we're meeting with to share this resource. What is your recommendation around, like, does each teacher take this Google site and make it workable for their community? Or do you see this more staying board wide, we all work on the site collaboratively? Like, how do you see that?
I think that really depends on how your teams work together, because we know each board is a little bit more unique. Some prefer to do their own thing. We have some teachers that work in silos and others prefer to work collaboratively. Personally, I like the collaborative approach because I think it helps us all to grow, and especially in the current scenarios. That might be a good starting point until everybody gets used to working with it, and then if you want them to customize from there. I don't know. I know some boards are more specific around keeping curriculum similar from location to location. Other ones not so much.
Mm-hmm. I think it also depends too. Looking in Halton, we have some sort of very key geographical areas. So there's North Halton, then there's Milton, Oakville, and Burlington. So I expect we'll sort of, because we use, like, North Halton Hills uses similar co-op placements and similar community partners, that we might have sort of 4 main websites set up for each of those geographical areas.
Okay, that helps a lot.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea, Donna. I like that.
Okay, if anyone has any additional questions, then great, you can email either Christine, myself, or Donna or Lydia. Otherwise, we'd like to thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We will be making the video recording available in a little bit, but at this point in time, unless there are any additional questions that people would like to ask, I am going to end the official recording shortly, and then we'll stay on the line for a little bit. So if anyone wants to ask any questions off camera, then that's going to be possible as well.